All right, I ran a survey a while back asking which organization has more influence over our lives, the corporations or the government. And the majority of people said that it's the government. But I just recently watched this video on Instagram, and a guy's talking about how the corporations are the ones raising the prices, not influenced by the government. The corporations are raising the prices out of spite because they don't like the Democrats and Biden. So I ask in the comments, is it that the corporations have more influence than the government? And a lot of people responded, less than 100, not a whole lot, but quite a few people responded and said, yes, oh yes, my God, it looks like you're finally getting it. It's the corporations who have more influence than the government. So there's arguments for that the corporations are the ones who are in charge and not the government. Apparently, the corporations are the ones who are lobbying the government, and they're arbitrarily raising the prices. The government isn't causing any issues with the prices in any way. And I think that's the argument. Pretty much, it's the corporations are the ones who have the influence because they got the money, they control the money, and they may not be able to print the money, but they could still manipulate the prices or something. But it's like, I mean, corporations, they can call the government on me for various reasons, but corporations themselves don't directly get me. I mean, it's like the corporations don't arrest me and throw me in jail, and I guess that's where I'm hung up on. I have a leaning towards the fact that the corporation or the government can employ police to arrest me, and then the prosecutor to prosecute me, judge to convict me, throw me in jail. The corporations can't do that. So it feels to me like, based on the law, the legal part of it all, that it's the government that has more influence on my life than corporations. And I mean, that's just how it's changed how I move about the country as I travel, and I set aside time for the government. But for the corporations to have influence on me being arrested and having to pay fines and sit through trials over my ID and stuff. There's people who write laws. The corporations don't write those laws, and take things to courts on a criminal basis. The corporations only seem limited by price, and they can raise the price of meat, and somebody argued that it's the meat corporations who have set the price, and it's just their way to influence the government or influence my lives, make me pay more, and the government needs to step in. And yeah, there's been times where the government has needed to step in with like drug regulations. So there's some manipulation. There's a pushing of boundaries by corporations, but there's a push of boundaries by government. But I mean, what has what seems to have the overall overbearing control over my life on a day-to-day basis, that I mean, I think that it's the government. I mean, I have to agree. But you know, like I surveyed my own audience on my cop channel, and these are people who, you know, they see clearly that it's cops that influence how we live. So that's a part of government. But apparently there's certain groups who would change the survey and turn it in a completely different direction and say it's corporations who are influencing, who have more influence than the government. So it pushes back and forth. All right, I don't quite know if it's a set issue that could be settled on a whole scale basis. Just saying corporations versus government. Who's got more power? I don't know if you could say one or the other exactly. You'd have to use examples. It'd have to be a totality of examples. Putting you know, if you were to just only use the example of the beef industry, then maybe people can make stronger arguments that the beef industry has more influence than the government in some way. It's stuff it's details that escape me. I haven't looked into that. So pricing wise, corporations, yeah, they can have some influence, but beyond that, I mean, the law books are not corporate books. The corporations can write policies, but they can't write laws and send cops out to enforce the corporate laws, right? The corporations can only enforce, like, I'm on private property. Okay, the corporations have the control over their property, but beyond that, on the public spaces, the public roads, public parks, the corporations do not have any influence, and it's government that has the influence. So it's really amazing to me. I'm really boggled. I mean, it's not a whole lot of people, less than 100, that responded and telling me how the corporations have more influence than the government. But there's a large amount of people out there who are making those arguments. And corporations are really just limited by what they own, and they can manipulate only what they own. Then of course they can bring lobbyists to the government to try to influence the government. But I mean, that's influence. I mean, bribes and just trying to get cozy with the government. They're trying to. I mean, who's lobbying who? Does the government lobby corporations, or do the corporations lobby government? I mean, it generally works only one way.